Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Wilds. Today I'm back for a new set of things you might not have known about in this game. As usual though, we have a mix of weird, interesting or useful topics to cover. A good amount this time comes from you guys in the comments, so a big thank you for the suggestions. With that said though, let's get into it. We begin here in the Iceshard Cliffs. We're going to head over to that special area, the pop-up camp, Area 7, where there's that incredible view we showed a little bit ago. So as before, as you come over to this area, we have this pretty awesome setup for a pop-up camp just because of the view that's here. As you look over the side, you can see the entire world, or like a lot of it I suppose, all from this high up vantage point. Like we have the oilwell basin there, over to the right we have the scarlet forest, just beyond that you have the wind gasp over there and all of the windward plains. And then quite a lot of interesting terrain that separates itself from the rest of the game. Maybe there'll be areas added in the future or where they do the expansion, who knows. Quite some time ago, about a month ago I think, towards the release of the game, there was an interesting post on the Reddit to do with seeing something strange off in the distance by those dark cliffs. Something flew over there and went behind the edge of the cliffs out of line of sight. Super quick in what felt like a very familiar way. So this post was by the Reddit user Crocodoc, and at just 3 seconds into this clip from the same vantage point, while they weren't even paying attention really, something slipped by there on the left. This looks like some sort of smoke trail that's zipping around down in those canyon areas over by the cliffs in an area that isn't an area of play in Wilds. So obviously people were very excited by the concept of this strange golden streak, and a lot of the comments were talking about Valstrax, of course. Josh saw this ages ago when it happened and had been mentioning it to bring up as a topic in this series. But now I finally got around to taking a look at the topic. I googled it, I looked through Reddit, I found essentially nothing about this other than this one clip, which is really strange. If there's an Easter egg where you literally see a Valstrax zipping through some of the area in the distance from this vantage point, a lot more than just one person would have seen it. Both myself and Josh have been sat up here looking, waiting, watching and recording and seeing nothing. So what is this strange, very Valstraxy looking streak? Well, later in the clip, there are other shards of falling snow that zip by in kind of strange patterns, where they're not just falling down, but they curve and zip around. And so a lot of the comments on that Reddit post are like, was that Valstrax? Or, no, it's just some snow that fell in that way, and you know, it was just a coincidence. But then we stop and look at the footage again, really slow it down, and you can see that very clearly that whatever that was goes behind the distant cliff edge. It goes out of line of sight. So at the moment, you know, we've tried to find any evidence of this ourselves and online. Was that a Valstrax Easter egg? Or was that some sort of particle effect that was very coincidentally very Valstraxian movement in the distance in an area that would make sense for that kind of flying creature going behind that cliff? Right now, I lean on really convenient particle effects that just happened and the stars aligned. But could Valstrax fit into Wilds? Of course he could. So it makes you wonder. Next up, we have this thing from Cowboy Ganowix from the comments, talking about kind of a funny little thing to mention. The fact that there are no egg retrieval quests, which is certainly unusual for the series. If you're unaware, these quests would have you go and steal an egg from something like a flying wyvern and then run it back to camp. It would always be awkward because you couldn't actually run around, you'd be slowed. If you take any damage, you break the egg, you can't roll. But there were, you know, side quests in the game that would give you relevant rewards. But just, you know, an iconic quest for the series that's always there. So it definitely is really weird that there isn't that in Wilds. At least, not officially. There are, in the Scarlet Forest at the right time, still eggs in the nests up in the high areas. And if you go up there, you can actually find wyvern eggs. And while there isn't officially an egg delivery quest, you absolutely can grab one, and just as before, it'll slow you down like you always do in the gathering. And if you run it all the way back to camp, your reward is 50 gil points. Definitely a chore and a challenge for a pretty small reward. But it's a whole system in the game. Like when you first pick up a wyvern egg, it tells you about it. It gives you this little UI and tooltip. Just makes me wonder, like, why isn't there a side quest for this? Or will they do an event quest with it or something? But if you want to go out of your way to do this just for the fun of it, then you absolutely can. You'll need to come to the Scarlet Forest, possibly in the time of plenty. That's when I did it. But you can actually just open the map and filter by it. You'll see a bunch of stuff at the bottom, like the wyvern eggs. But you got to be careful because there's quite a few rules to this. Like I said, it'll force you to move slower, a lot slower. You can climb down vines while holding the eggs, but you do need to be careful to not do ledge jumps, because if you do that like this, you'll fly too far and the egg will shatter on impact. So if you go up to any climbable vines, just walk up, don't sprint up, and the hunter will just climb over the edge, and then you can start to work your way down. Once you're actually climbing vines, by the way, you can sprint, as it were, to speed up the process, but only do so once you're already climbing. It's a good idea to have tools on you, such as ghillie mantles, to make it so monsters won't even see you, and probably have some dung pods equipped. If you need to, you can drop the egg carefully on the ground briefly by pressing the item button, which is square on a PlayStation controller, for example, then fire your pods or whatever, and that'll help. Be aware though that you can slide while holding the egg safely, so if there are any of those surfaces you can slide down, it can be a massive time save if you find one of those chances, so take advantage of that. By grabbing this egg, it's very likely that a Rathian or Rathalos is going to show up and harass you, especially if there's already one on the map, but they do seem to appear at times. At that point, good luck, you'll just have to dodge to the side as best you can, maybe put the egg down safely and dung pod, but it will also accidentally break the egg if you take that hit. A helpful trick in wilds in specific though, is the fact that you can take these to pop-up camps like so, and that will hand in the egg as if it's in the base camp. This can be great because, you know, the pop-up camps are going to be a lot closer than the base camp all the way to the southern point of the Scarlet Forest. There are also equipment skills that can help you with this, like say Intimidator here, which discourages monsters from attacking you even if you've been spotted, and at level 3 it fully prevents them. Now this doesn't work entirely with large monsters, but it definitely does with small monsters, and again, if you take a hit, the egg will break, so it might be worth the effort to just put these decorations in or whatever. On that note, there's also the skill Outdoorsman, which really helps this process. I strongly recommend it because it improves your transporting abilities, which means you move slightly faster while carrying the egg, which is well worth it. When you do deliver the egg though, you will find that it's put on the ground, and then this special palico will come and pick it up and carry it away. However, there's a cool little detail. If you do bring it all the way to the Scarlet Forest base camp specifically, you've got this special tent here where they actually bring it and put it in. So like we talked about in a recent things episode, there's all kinds of little setups, especially in the Windward camp, where characters get their own little setup. Like this guy that revives you, and this palico by comparison, this one is actually the one that's going to be gathering the eggs for you. He's got like a little research hat on. So it's not quite as nice of a camp as the Windward Plains, but they do have their setups. Next up, I want to look at some cool details to do with a couple monsters. For example, in the title update 1 focus things episode I did, we looked at how Shia sits in an interesting way, and it turns out that's exactly the same as fatalis, like it's quite literally recreating that pose. It's not a coincidence, obviously. But other details, like say Mizutsune, we took a look at. Mizutsune, if you leave it alone long enough, will lay down and kind of sit like a cat with the two paws over each other. It's quite cute. But here are a couple interesting other fun ones. For example, this post on Twitter by Dynamo Lin, using some sort of free camera to chase around a Rathian that's sprinting around. The interesting detail here is that the tongue of Rathian actually has physics for some reason, like it bounces around while she's sprinting like that. Why have they gone to that level of detail? Maybe just when it rolls you get to see it bouncing around, or maybe when it's eating those physics are relevant, but for some reason it's just flopping around while she's sprinting. There'd be no way for me to see this otherwise, so thank you to Dynamo Lin for posting that on Twitter. But there's other interesting behaviors that you might never actually pay attention to if you don't stop and look. So let's take a look at Deshagama here. Sometimes there's dung on the ground, which if you pick up, you can turn into dung pods. It's got to come from somewhere. You probably realize this. There's a whole actual animation for this though, where it just kind of plops out like you're walking behind a horse or something. It's not the nicest to look at, but it's interesting, I guess. But the unexpected side of this is that they also did a peeing animation. I don't know why they went this hard, but they did. And you could entirely miss this because it serves no function. It's purely visual. You see it streaming out suddenly, and it doesn't even look like Deshagama's aware that it's doing it, but it also leaves this people on the ground super briefly, like seconds before it's gone. And there's no special interaction with this, by the way. It's not like something you can interact with or investigate, get points for, or use for any tool. It's literally just a tiny thing that happens super briefly that you will only see if you follow Deshagama around for a while. Funnily, in my example clip of this when I was watching, immediately this was followed by poop. So maybe they happen at the same time, I don't know. But yep, I don't know why they went this hard for this kind of tiny detail, but it's kind of awesome that they did. It's also kind of gross that it is. Okay, so this week there was a new event quest that introduced at long last the Amstrigian hat, which is just very silly. So for free tickets from doing that event quest, you can craft your own, and there are a couple details that are quite cute to do with it. For example, you can recolor it like it's an armor set, so you can get the lower side and the main coloring of the wings like so, giving yourself some pretty cool designs to it. The physics on it are obviously ridiculous while you're fighting, but according to a text Reddit post, its expressions change based on your expressions. So while I'm serious, it's serious. But if I do some different poses, so I'm now smiling, you can see that it's now also smiling. If I do a powerful pose, it's kind of neutral. Or battle ready, its mouth is like that, 20% open now. I think that's it posing. Or if I go into joyful pose, it also turns its head to face the camera like that. They went so hard on all of this. It's absolutely thrilled by this. I'm not sure it's matching my vibe on this one. It's trying though. But apparently if you get, say, the frog for your palico, it matches the palico's expression in the same way. So it's looking pretty chuffed, and so does the frog. So as I get to do poses myself, oh my god, it's real. The frog is changing expression with the palico. That seems to mean like varying expressions or open mouth size, but it absolutely does work. So there you go, Capcom devs, they take the funny hats they give us very, very seriously. Next up, we have a bit of a follow-up topic from last time about how, say, the waist will change your knife, but also there's a unique grappling hook that has this beautiful visual for the Shia set, which is really cool. But it turns out there's some specific details to that and some other stuff we can look at because of that. So thank you to Focused Elite for letting me know in the comments of that episode. It turns out, say, with the waist being able to change your knife, it's actually the gloves, the gauntlets that are changing your grapple. And so that affects other things too. So if you look at my gloves in specific, there is no grapple on my arm there. So they had that kind of encouragement to change it into something more unique and interesting. But there's a couple really cool things we could look at with what's in the game right now. For example, arkveld in particular. You see how, say, with these Mizutsune gloves here, you can very clearly see the slinger, and so you've got kind of a normal grappling hook concept. But if we take a look at the arkveld ones, you can see that it's gloves with chains on them. There is no room for a grappling hook there. Or say with the Guardian version, we have, again, the same kind of thing. There's no clear slinger on the arm. So what happens as you use this grappling hook? The grappling hook itself isn't unique, it's just kind of a normal rope, but then you look at my arm and you can see that the slinger is extending out in a weird way. Almost like a creature coming out of my arm. And this is the same case for the regular arkveld with the chain arms, which is a shame because, you know, as cool as the idea of like a hidden grappling hook coming out and using it is a neat idea, you've got these literal hanging chains. There's one on the side there. Could we not have had a visual that makes it look like a chain if we're doing this for the DLC? It feels like such a lost or awesome cool thing that could have been done. Just a misbeat on some really cool gloves. But to continue the topic of the knives though, and the waists, obviously the waist changed things. I talked about how the awesome Shia waist, it changes your knife to this bright white glowing knife with this double crossguard design on it. Well, a bunch of you in the comments let me know that that's specifically the Shia masculine knife. If you go to the Shia feminine waist, the knife changes again. If you're unaware, the same knife will be pulled out when you're actually using it. So when I'm carving something, it gets pulled out. So we should be able to get a look at it as I go for a carve here. Oh my god, it's completely different. I thought it'd be like a slightly different glowing knife, maybe with a different crossguard, but it's a massive dagger by comparison. So as we pull it out to sharpen it, my god, look at the size of it. It's glowing blue along the edge as well. It kind of reminds me more of New Udra in a way, although obviously this waist in particular is very tendrily but yeah, god, the size of it. Obviously the unique design is cool, but it's absolutely massive. This is something I'm going to be checking with every new set they add to the game. Just such a cool detail. Lastly today then, we have an interesting tip from Madman6884. You know how sometimes you'll have settlements that are asking for assistance, and when you create a quest, it'll give you a monster associated to the problem. So in this case, it was a tempered gypsyros. Well, if you click on that quest, get involved, do a field survey, whatever, the result is a boosted state for both gathering and trade rates, which I didn't realize. It's just boosted gathering, I thought. So that basically just means, you know, your farm is getting a boost, but it's kind of minor. it only really matters if it's an item you won, then it's good. Whereas the trade boost is really decent, essentially doubling up your rewards for the trades. So this could be a great way to get significantly more cooking ingredients should you want that, or other trades you might be interested in. But sadly, you can't help Suju with this because, you know, they don't have a combat zone, there's nothing to help, and Suju are the ones I care most about for trades. But if you do get one you care about, you can maximize it, with the fact that you can save those quests as investigations, which means it's going to keep that boost trait, allowing you to re-up that boost over and over whenever it runs out, massively increasing the value you get out of that farm for a good period. So it's a really clever tip if you want to make the farm significantly more relevant. Obviously, you can also spam rest to make it progress time and give you a bit more, but doubling up on the whole trading and farm at the same time could be a really efficient way to get the items you want, especially if you're trying to get the trades for the cloths. I imagine you get more resources for those trades too. But there you have it. That's our newest set of things you might not have known about in Wilds. Let me know if you have anything you'd like to add to the topics today or have a suggestion for the series. And if we do end up talking about it, I'll be sure to credit you as usual. But for now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.